Listen to me, some of the battles you're crying over right now are not happening outside you. They're happening inside you. And the truth is, your biggest enemy isn't your past, your failures, or the people who walked away. Your biggest enemy is the storm of emotions you allow to control you. But tonight, by God's power, you're about to take back the steering wheel of your life. Every one of us walks into this room carrying something. Anger, fear, confusion, disappointment. Emotions are powerful, but when they lead your life, they can destroy your focus, your purpose, and your peace. I came to tell you, God didn't create you to be ruled by temporary feelings. God created you to rise above them. You are stronger than the waves crashing inside your heart. You are greater than the thoughts that shake you at midnight. The moment you learn to master your emotions, you unlock the version of yourself that God intended. Steady, clear, unshakable. So today, we're going to speak the truth. We're going to confront the emotional enemies that steal your destiny. And we're going to reclaim your power, not by ignoring emotions, but by understanding them, managing them, and rising above them. Your emotions react, but your purpose responds. And if you look closely at your life, you will notice that almost every wrong turn you ever took began with an emotional reaction instead of a purposeful response. Think about the moments where you snapped at someone you loved, not because they deserved it, but because you were tired, overwhelmed, or stressed. The emotion reacted, and the relationship felt the impact. Think about the opportunities you walked away from, the job you didn't apply for, the exam you didn't attempt, the idea you didn't start, not because you weren't capable, but because fear reacted before your purpose had the chance to respond. Fear shouted louder than your destiny, and you let the reaction win. This is why understanding the difference between reaction and response is life-changing. A reaction is instant, it rises quickly, demands attention, and pushes you to act without thinking. It's like a spark that jumps out and burns anything nearby, but a response takes attention. A response requires you to pause, breathe, observe, and choose. It is guided by purpose, not pressure. Purpose never shouts, but it is always present. If you learn to slow down and listen, every day you live between these two forces. The reaction from your emotions and the response from your purpose. And the quality of your life is determined by which force you allow to lead. Imagine waking up late for work or school. Before you even get out of bed, emotions react, panic, stress, frustration. You rush, you forget things, you snap at the person who speaks to you, and your entire morning becomes a storm. But if you pause, take a breath, and respond instead of react, the day unfolds differently. You calmly accept what is already done. I am late, but I will move wisely. You get ready with clarity. You speak kindly. You stay centered. The situation stays the same, but your experience changes because you responded with purpose instead of reacting from emotion. Or imagine someone criticizes you, insults you, or tries to provoke you. Emotions react instantly. Anger rises. Your voice tightens. Your pride activates. You want to respond with equal force. But the moment you let anger lead, you lose control over yourself. You say things you'll apologize for later, or you carry that anger the whole day, letting that one moment poison your peace. But when you respond from purpose, that higher part of you that knows who you are, you answer differently. Instead of shouting back, you step back. Instead of letting their energy shape your mood, you choose your own energy. You remind yourself, my value does not depend on this moment, and I will not lose my peace over someone else's storm. That is purpose responding, not emotion reacting. It happens in love too. People lose relationships not because they stop caring, but because they let temporary emotions create permanent damage. A person who loves deeply can still hurt deeply if they allow their emotions to react without control. But when you choose to respond, when you choose to communicate instead of accuse, to listen instead of explode, to understand instead of assume, love grows stronger. And the relationship becomes a reflection of your emotional discipline. Even in your dreams and goals, this principle shapes your journey. When you start something new, emotions will always react first. Fear will whisper, what if you fail? Doubt will hiss, who do you think you are? Impatience will say, it's taken too long. But purpose speaks differently. Purpose says, even if you fail, you learn. Purpose says, you are chosen for this. Purpose says, Everything great takes time. Every successful person you admire has learned one powerful truth. Their dreams came true not because their emotions were stable, because they did not let their emotions decide their future. They let purpose respond. Think about the gym. Many people quit because emotions react to discomfort. It hurts. It's tiring. I don't feel like going today. But purpose responds by saying, you want to be healthier, stronger, better. Keep going. Purpose understands that growth requires discomfort while emotions fear it. When you let emotions lead, you give up early. When you let purpose respond, emotion says, I'm tired. Purpose says, rest and continue. Emotion says, I can't. Purpose says, you can if you try. Emotion says, I feel hopeless. Purpose says that even storms end. Keep believing one moment of emotional reaction can ruin opportunities, relationships, and peace. But one moment of purposeful response can save your growth, your dignity, and your future. This is why you must train yourself to pause when emotions rise. That pause is power. That pause is wisdom. That pause gives your purpose space to speak. Every time you react emotionally, you hand your power to the situation. But every time you respond with purpose, you reclaim your life. And the more you practice this, the stronger you become. You begin to rise above the old patterns. You stop letting temporary emotions sabotage your long-term destiny. You start walking with the clarity and confidence that comes from aligning your life with something bigger than your feelings, the purpose God placed inside you. When you understand this, you stop being a prisoner of your emotions. You stop letting every insult, every fear, every setback, every disappointment control you. You begin to stand firm, steady, intentional. You become the kind of person who can walk through storms without losing direction. Because now you're no longer reacting, you're responding. You're no longer moved by emotion, you're guided by purpose. You're no longer controlled by the moment, you're led by the mission God put inside you. And that is the moment your life begins to change. God gave you emotions, but not to be your master. Emotions were never designed to sit on the throne of your life. They were meant to be passengers, not drivers, signals, not dictators. And when you begin to understand this truth, something inside you shifts. You stop being dragged by the storms inside you and start walking with the authority God placed within you. Every single person experiences emotions, joy, anger, fear, sadness, excitement, frustration. They rise and fall like waves. But the danger begins when the waves start steering your ship instead of simply passing by. Many people are not lost because life is difficult. They're lost because their emotions are loud. Their emotions tell them when to quit, when to fear, when to hide, when to fight, when to doubt. But emotions are temporary. They are moments, not maps. They cannot see the long road ahead. They only react to the present moment. Think about the times when your emotions pushed you into decisions you didn't truly want. You got angry and said things that cut deeply into someone's heart. Not because you meant them, but because anger sat in the driver's seat. Maybe you walked away from a dream because fear showed up whispering, what if you fail? What if you're not good enough? Fear reacted for you, but it never knew your true potential. Or maybe you isolated yourself on days when sadness wrapped around you. You stopped answering messages, stopped showing up for yourself, stopped trying. And it wasn't because you were weak. It was because sadness took control of the wheel. But deep down, you know these emotions were never meant to lead your life. You know there is a wiser, stronger, calmer part of you, the part God placed inside you that sees beyond the emotion of the moment. Emotions make noise, but God gives direction. Emotions shake you. God stabilizes you. Emotions shift, but God is constant. Daily life shows this clearly. Consider a simple moment you're stuck in traffic, already late, already stressed. Emotions react instantly. Irritation, impatience, anger. You honk, you complain, you clench your jaw. But does the traffic move faster? No. The only thing that changes is your peace. The situation stays the same, but your emotional reaction steals your calm. Now imagine the same moment, but with emotional mastery. Instead of reacting, you accept what you cannot control. You breathe. You use the moment to think or reflect. You protect your peace instead of losing it. The traffic didn't change, you did. Or think about relationships. How many arguments start from misinterpreted emotions? Someone didn't reply fast enough. Someone didn't speak the way you expected. Someone looked distracted, and suddenly your emotions react. They don't care about me. They're ignoring me. They're losing interest. And without even checking the truth, you allow your emotions to build stories that hurt you and others. But when you remember that emotions are not masters, you respond differently. You communicate instead of assuming. You ask instead of accusing. You understand instead of overreacting. This doesn't just strengthen relationships, it strengthens you. Even in moments of disappointment, your emotions will try to take charge. You fail a test, lose an opportunity, or receive criticism, and instantly emotions shout, "You're not enough. You'll never make it. Stop trying." But emotions only see the moment. They don't see the growth that failure is creating, the strength developing inside you, or the opportunity that can arise from what you learned. When you let emotions lead, you stop too early. But when you lead your emotions, you rise again with clarity, knowing that setbacks are not the end but part of the journey. Consider the greatest challenges you faced. You didn't survive them because your emotions were strong. You survived them because you were strong. You overcame because there was a part of you, deeper than fear, deeper than sadness, deeper than anger, that refused to give up. That part of you is your spirit, your purpose, the divine guidance within you. And that part is the real leader of your life. Emotions will always show up. You cannot remove them. You can only learn to guide them. You cannot silence them forever. You can only reduce their power to control you. And you do this by creating space between feeling and action. That little pause where wisdom is born. When anger rises, pause before speaking. When fear rises, pause before quitting. When sadness rises, pause before isolating yourself. In that pause, you hear the voice of clarity, the one God placed within you, reminding you who you are. You are not meant to be controlled by temporary storms. You are meant to walk with stability, purpose, strength. Emotions should serve you, not command you. They should inform you, not rule you. When you learn to feel your emotions without letting them make your decisions, your entire life transforms. You become calmer, wiser, more confident. You stop swinging between emotional highs and lows. You stop losing yourself in moments of intensity. You stop letting temporary feelings create permanent regrets. And the truth is, emotional mastery is not about becoming cold or numb. It's about becoming powerful. It's about learning to say, yes, I feel this, but it does not control me. It's about letting your emotions flow without letting them drown you. It's about honoring what you feel while still choosing what aligns with your purpose. When you finally understand that emotions were never meant to be your master, you reclaim your life. You begin to live intentionally, not impulsively. You begin to rise above the storms within you. You begin to walk with the strength and clarity that God always intended for you. And that is when you truly become unstoppable. Emotional overload destroys your inner clarity. And most people don't even realize how silently it happens. It doesn't show up with warning signs or alarms. It builds slowly, quietly, one stressful moment at a time, until suddenly you find yourself confused, overwhelmed, and disconnected from your real self. When your emotions pile up without control, your mind becomes foggy. You cannot think sharply, you cannot decide confidently, and you cannot move forward with direction. You feel stuck, not because the path is blocked, but because your inner vision is blurred. Every day you carry emotional weight, frustration from conversations, pressure from responsibilities, worry about the future, disappointment from unmet expectations. These feelings accumulate like dust settling on a glass window. At first, you barely notice it. The view still looks clear, but with time, the dust thickens, and you can no longer see through the window properly. That's what emotional overload does. It builds layer by layer until you no longer see your purpose, your strength, or your direction clearly. Consider a day when everything feels heavy. You wake up already tired. Someone says something small and it feels big. A simple mistake feels like a disaster. A minor problem feels like the end of the world. It's not because you're weak. It's because your emotional cup is already full. When your emotions are overloaded, even gentle waves feel like storms. Think about a time you had too many tasks, too many worries, too many thoughts. Your mind kept racing. You couldn't focus on anything because everything felt like it was demanding your attention at the same time. You knew what needed to be done, but you didn't know where to begin. That confusion didn't come from the tasks. It came from emotional overload. When emotions stack up, clarity disappears and everything feels bigger than it is. Imagine you're holding a glass of water. Carrying it for a minute is easy. Carrying it for an hour becomes uncomfortable. Carrying it all day makes your arm shake. The weight never changed, only the duration did. Emotional weight works the same way. You may think, it's just stress, or it's just one bad moment. But when you hold on to emotional weight for too long, it breaks your clarity and drains your strength. Daily life shows us this truth repeatedly. Think about arguments you've had when you were already stressed. You said things you didn't mean. You interpreted words negatively. You reacted harshly because your emotional cup was full, not because the situation deserved such a reaction. And later, when your mind calmed down, you wondered why it felt so intense. That's emotional overload. It makes small fires look like explosions. Or think about conversations where someone simply asked, "Are you okay?" And suddenly you felt like crying. It wasn't their question. It was the weight inside you that had been waiting to spill over. When emotions build up inside, even gentle moments can crack the surface. Emotional overload also steals your ability to make good decisions. When your emotions are chaotic, your mind cannot distinguish between what is urgent and what is simply loud. You start reacting to the noise inside instead of listening to your deeper purpose. You choose impulsively, speak impulsively, and act impulsively. You avoid opportunities because fear screams louder than possibility. You give up on dreams because exhaustion whispers louder than hope. You stay stuck because your emotional fog makes the path forward hard to see. But the most dangerous part of emotional overload is that it blinds you to your own strength. When you're overwhelmed, you forget how powerful you truly are. You forget the challenges you've already overcome. You forget your resilience. You forget your purpose. Your mind feels clouded, and you start believing the lies that overload tells you. You can't. You're losing control. You're failing. You're not enough. But these lies are not truth. They are the echoes of emotional weight pressing down on your clarity. The good news is clarity returns the moment you release the weight. The moment you pause. The moment you breathe. The moment you stop letting emotions pile up without acknowledging them. Many times, what you need is not to solve everything immediately, but to create space inside yourself. To let your spirit breathe again. To allow your thoughts to settle like water after being shaken. Think of a glass full of muddy water. If you keep stirring it, it stays cloudy. But if you set it down and let it rest, the dirt settles and the water becomes clear again. Your emotions work the same way. As long as you keep reacting, worrying, overstressing, and overthinking, your clarity remains muddy. But when you pause, reflect, slow down, and release the internal pressure, your clarity returns. Your purpose becomes visible again. Your decisions become wiser. Your vision becomes sharp. Emotional overload is not a sign that you're broken. It's a sign that you've been carrying too much for too long. It's a sign that you need to pause and reconnect with the calm voice within, the voice that God placed inside you, the voice that reminds you who you are, what you're capable of, and what truly matters. When you clear the emotional weight, you rediscover your power. You begin to move intentionally instead of chaotically. You begin to respond instead of react. You begin to lead your emotions instead of letting them lead you. And slowly you return to yourself, steady, grounded, and clear. The strongest version of you is the one that's emotionally disciplined, because true strength has nothing to do with how loud you are, how tough you look, or how much you pretend you don't care. Real strength is the quiet, steady ability to calm the storm inside your own soul. It is the power to pause when your emotions are screaming. It is the courage to choose wisdom over impulse and purpose over reaction. Anyone can lift weights, raise their voice, or try to appear strong on the outside. But only a truly powerful person can control the chaos inside. Emotional discipline is not about suppressing your feelings. It is about guiding them, understanding them, and refusing to let them steer your destiny. Think about the people who lose control the moment anger rises. They shout, slam doors, throw words like knives. It may look fierce, but it's not strength. It's the absence of emotional discipline. Strength is not the punch thrown, strength is the punch restrained. Strength is not the insult yelled. Strength is the silence chosen. Strength is not the impulse acted on. Strength is the impulse overcome. Every time you stop yourself from reacting out of fear, anger, jealousy, or pain, you are becoming a stronger version of yourself. Daily life gives countless examples of this. Imagine someone insults you, mocks you, or tries to provoke you. Your emotions react instantly. Your heart heats up, your face tightens, and your pride jumps to your throat. In that moment, the old version of you wants to fire back, prove a point, and show them you won't tolerate disrespect. But the stronger version of you knows that reacting only gives them power over your peace. So instead, you breathe, you stay calm, you respond with dignity. You walk away without lowering yourself. That is emotional discipline. It looks like silence on the outside, but inside it is a triumph, a victory, a declaration that no one controls your inner world but you. Or think about the moments when fear tries to stop you from moving forward. You have a dream, an opportunity, an idea that could change your life, but fear reacts instantly, whispering, what if you fail? What if you're not good enough? What if they judge you? The old version of you might hide, delay, or give up. But the emotionally disciplined you feels the fear and moves anyway. You say to yourself, I hear the fear, but it does not get to decide for me. That is strength. That is emotional discipline. Doing what your purpose requires, even when your emotions tremble. Even in relationships, emotional discipline is the foundation of growth and peace. Many relationships break not because there is no love, but because there is no emotional discipline. One person gets angry and shuts down. The other panics and overreacts. Small issues become thunderstorms because emotions run wild without control. But when you are emotionally disciplined, you communicate instead of explode. You listen instead of assuming. You express instead of attacking. You take a moment to cool down before speaking words you can't take back. That discipline turns conflicts into understanding and misunderstandings into deeper connection. Look at how emotional discipline changes your daily routine. You wake up tired and your emotions say, skip your goals today. You feel discouraged and your emotions say, stop trying. You feel sad and your emotions say don't show up, but when you're disciplined, you rise anyway. You go to the gym even when you don't feel like it. You study even when your mind is tired. You show up for your work, your dreams, your responsibilities, not because your emotions are stable, but because your purpose is bigger than your mood. This is why emotionally disciplined people achieve more. They don't wait for motivation, they act from commitment. Think of emotional discipline like steering a ship through waves. The waves are your feelings. They rise, they crash, they shift unpredictably. But the captain controls the direction. No matter how loud the waves roar, the captain keeps the ship steady. Without emotional discipline, the waves drag you wherever they want. With emotional discipline, you guide the ship toward your destination, and no storm can sink a ship guided by a steady captain. Emotional discipline also protects your peace. When someone tries to pull you into drama, your discipline keeps you out. When life throws unexpected situations your way, discipline keeps you from breaking down. When your worries pile up, discipline calms your mind enough to think clearly. You stop living in emotional extremes. From high to low, from excited to devastated, from confident to insecure. You begin to move with balance. You learn to feel deeply without falling apart. It's important to understand that emotional discipline is a daily practice. You don't master it overnight. You learn it through every hard moment where your emotions beg you to react. You build it through every choice to pause, breathe, reflect, and respond from wisdom instead of impulse. Every time you choose peace over chaos, patience over frustration, clarity over confusion, you strengthen the muscles of emotional discipline. And slowly, you become the kind of person who is unshakable, not because life is easy, but because you refuse to let emotions control your power. In the end, the strongest version of you is the one who can walk through emotional storms without losing your direction. The one who feels deeply but still chooses wisely. The one who can experience pain but not become it. The one who leads their emotions instead of being led by them. That version of you is rising. Every time you choose discipline over reaction. Every time you choose purpose over emotion. Every time you choose growth over impulse, and that version of you is unstoppable. Emotions lie, but God's direction never lies. This truth is something every person discovers eventually, usually after being misled by their own feelings again and again. Emotions are powerful, but they are not always honest. They can paint illusions, twist realities, and convince you of things that are not true. Emotions are like waves that rise and fall, but God's direction is like the shoreline, firm, steady, unchanging. When you rely only on your emotions, your life becomes unstable. But when you trust the deeper guidance within you, the wisdom, the intuition, the divine clarity God placed in your spirit, you begin to walk with certainty even when the world around you shakes. Think about the times your emotions deceived you. You felt alone when you were actually surrounded by people who cared. You felt hopeless when better days were right around the corner. You felt insecure when you had every reason to be confident. You felt like giving up when you were closer to breakthrough than you realized. How many times have you looked back and said, I wish I hadn't believed that feeling, it wasn't even real? That is the nature of emotions. They speak loudly in the moment, but they don't always speak truth. Daily life reveals this constantly. Imagine preparing for an exam or an interview. Your emotions might whisper, you're not prepared, you're going to fail, you're not capable. And for a moment, you believe it. Your hands shake, your mind goes blank, doubt floods in. But what happened when you went through with it? You realized the fear was lying. You were capable. You were prepared. You were stronger than the emotion that tried to deceive you. The fear felt real, but it wasn't true. Or think about relationships. How many times have your emotions told you that someone doesn't care about you simply because they were quiet, busy, or distracted? Your emotions created stories. They've changed. They don't value me. I'm not important. But later, when the truth came out, you discovered the stories were false. They were dealing with their own struggles. They were tired. They were overwhelmed. They were fighting battles you couldn't see. Your emotions filled the silence with lies, but God's direction, the calm inner voice, told you to be patient, to seek understanding, to trust the connection. And when the truth appeared, you realized your emotions exaggerated a moment and made you believe something harmful. Even in challenging seasons, emotions try to mislead you. When you face loss, failure, or disappointment, your emotions say,